DeAndre made the All-Star team.
That's what I hear. So it's a great honor for him. Obviously, it's been a long time since a rookie's made the All-Star team, and I guess he's only the second homegrown to have ever made the All-Star team. So, from that standpoint, it's a tremendous honor for him and for our organization.
Will you miss any games?
I don't know. I mean, the All-Star game is always in the middle of the week, so he shouldn't miss any games. Although he's gone for practice, and you got to see how many minutes he plays, in the game. That'll determine what we do the weekend after.
He was a commissioner's pick. Do you know if Garber was looking to have a homegrown player on the squad, or if
No, he didn't call me. He made that pick on his own. So he consulted with himself and made that pick.
Does that mean anything extra that's coming from the commissioner?
You'd have to ask him, that question. I mean, in the past, obviously, a lot of times the commissioner's pick has been somebody from the area, a local player. Kansas City had enough players voted on, so he didn't feel he probably needed to do that. And, so, his rationale is his.
Is there any danger in these kinds of accolades coming to so young a player? Maybe
No, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. He'll keep himself in check.
In less happy news, the injury report today is probably fairly extensive.
Yeah, don't know exactly. Michael Geschmernig is going to see a hand specialist tomorrow. He's already been looked at, and he's in a brace splint right now. So obviously this weekend does not look good for him for sure, and then we'll get more of an idea once he sees the hand specialist. Brad Evans was still pretty sore today, so got a little better as he trained his activity, but he's still got to get an MRI to get final answers on where he's at. Jimmy Traore, obviously we kept inside today with his hamstring, and that's more day-to-day, week-to-week type of thing. So.
Schmerning, did the X-ray show a fracture?
No, but it's deals more with the tendons between. So his problem is not closing and opening; it's that turning motion is where the problem is.
What about Oba and Shalri? They were out.
Oba trained today. We had Oba in the first part of training. Then I pulled him out. I'd seen enough from him today, so he should be able to do a little bit more tomorrow. And Shalri was still inside today.
Obviously, you made the move for Weber, kind of thinking he might be an insurance policy. Is he somebody you're comfortable with starting for the long term if it comes to that?
Yeah, it's become a big insurance policy now with two goalkeepers out. The only time I've had it worse is in Columbus. At one point, I was down 5 goalkeepers. So we actually called the guy out of retirement. So if KC stays here long enough, he could be next.
Andy Rose looking like he's getting close to playable?
He's making improvements. He jogged a little bit today. He took part in the early part of the warm-up, but we have to see. At this stage, not enough for this weekend yet, but who knows? It might change dramatically.
How frustrating are these injuries? I mean, to sign a goalkeeper for the express purpose of this, and then...
In 5 years here in Seattle, it's probably the worst injury run we've had. Cumulatively, it seems to all have hit sort of at the same time, and also positionally for us, the injuries have hit a couple of positions. Obviously, right now in goal, being one, and then the other thing, when you look at wide players as well, when you look at Sakawani being injured, Kasky having to go through surgery, Martinez not being able to return to the club, all of a sudden you lose 3 out of 4 wide players as well. So it's been positionally significant that way, and in central midfield it's been a revolving door for us as well, which is an important part of your team. I look at lineups from other teams, and I'm like going, geez, man, that's the same group they played the last time. And so now all of a sudden there's some cohesion there in the middle of midfield because these 3 are playing together all the time. So hopefully we'll get to that point this season, and we'll get to a point where it's not too late.
You guys are at the halfway point. You've had some really good stretches, some not so good. I mean, is that the biggest factor, just the inability to have a consistent lineup, or are there other things too?
I would really like to see what this team looks like when we can get our best players on the field for 3-4 games in a row. I'd like to see what we look like at that point. Right now, obviously, we haven't been able to do that, and so right now it's been inconsistent as a result. And we're probably in the right position based upon our inconsistency. So it's tough to measure the team, where it is because of all the changes. And it's easy. Okay, if you have 8, 9 of the same guys and you're replacing 1 or 2, that's doable. But when you're making a lot more changes, it becomes harder. So right now, the performance hasn't been up to what we would call our standards, and we got to continue to fight, continue to work, and get it there.
Any thoughts on Alonso's red card?
I've watched it. I've watched it on different videotapes and so forth. Maybe I haven't had the right angle to see what was seen.
Are you guys going to challenge it, or?
Don't know yet. That's something we might not do. It's something we'll think about if we think it's appropriate.
And what did you think about the play on which Sperning was injured?
I watched that a little bit. I think in fairness to Lenhart, I think he went in for the ball. I don't think it was overly aggressive. I think there's other plays you can look at where he's more aggressive, but it's just one of those things. Just caught and hit the ball and turned Michael's wrist in an awkward manner.
You called it physical and ugly. Did you see anything dirty that game?
That's for the referees to determine when they referee the game. I thought the calls were inconsistent. You look at certain situations. The one that really stands out in my mind is the one where Alan Gordon goes up in the air for the ball and runs over Zach Scott, and the foul's on Zach Scott. And there were 2-3 other occasions where the referee blew the whistle and pointed in the wrong direction, and then had to change his mind and ended up pointing in the other direction. So I think he seemed a little tentative, the whole game as a result. And I thought, the game was very disjointed, very choppy with 35 fouls in it. And as a result of that, there wasn't a flow, there wasn't a rhythm. There were certainly, some hard challenges that were there.
With the injuries, do you have to think about maybe rescheduling the reserve game from this weekend?
We'll see. We'll see how our academy teams do, and we've got some academy players we can use, and we'll see where we're at.
I'm sorry. I know you'll get exactly on Sperning later, but just as a body part, how is a wrist injury for a goalkeeper in terms of either playing through it or needing to wait it out?
It's not a wrist. It's sort of a forearm. It's upper. It's above the wrist. Any injury, whether it's a goalkeeper or whomever, any injury, obviously a hand injury is less dangerous for a field player because he's not going to use his hands, and but for a goalkeeper, it's an important part of what he needs to bring to the game. But it's a symptomatic thing. It's how quickly you regain your movement, how quickly you recover, and so forth. Today he said it felt pretty much the same as it felt on Saturday. Hasn't made a lot of improvement.
Are you seeing any trends in these injuries, or does it feel like they're just kind of all isolated bad luck situations?
Obviously Gesperning's injury is not something you can point to overtraining or anything like that. You look at Evans's injury, where the guy bangs into him, that's not related to that. You look at Oba's injury where he gets kicked, and stuff like that. We have internally discussed, okay, Andy with a hamstring, Marcus with a hamstring, and Jimmy with a hamstring, but we've also, with Ayani being injured for the start of the season, Jimmy's probably played more minutes maybe than we expected at this stage, and the accumulation of time has added up for him. So we always try and see if there's a trend, if there's something we're doing or not doing in training, something that we need to change.
Anything else?
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Give your full 90 with the Sounders FC mobile app, featuring live audio, matchday blog, and much more to keep you connected. Download your app at soundersfc.com/mobile.